From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
Well, he's in solitary confinement. He's in what's known as a punishment block. We're not quite sure why he's there, but again, that's a disgrace. Here's an innocent man who hasn't been charged with anything.
Veteran journalist John Pilger speaking outside the London courtroom where WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange was granted bail yesterday. But the British court forced Assange to remain in prison after Swedish authorities challenged the decision. We'll go to London to speak with John Pilger, and we'll be joined by Assange's lawyer, Mark Stevens. Then, the veteran U.S. diplomat Richard Holbrooke has died at the age of 69.
It is, of course, a very sad day here at the State Department. We have lost one of our own and a legendary figure in Richard Holbrooke.
Richard Holbrooke served under 4 Democratic administrations dating back to President Lyndon Johnson. We'll look at his record from Vietnam to East Timor, from the Balkans to Afghanistan and Pakistan. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange remains in a London prison after Swedish officials challenged a British court decision to release him on bail. Assange has been detained since last week when he was arrested in London on an international warrant to face sex crime allegations in Sweden. His arrest came amidst an international uproar over WikiLeaks' most recent publication of a massive trove of secret U.S. diplomatic cables. Defense attorney Mark Stevens said Assange could remain behind bars until a follow-up hearing within 48 hours.
Finally, after 2 hours, we've heard that the Swedes won't abide by the umpire's decision, and they want to put Mr. Assange through yet more trouble, more expense, more hurdles. They clearly will not spare any expense but to keep Mr. Assange in jail. This is really turning into a show trial, and we will be in court again within the next 48 hours.
Assange's attorney, Mark Stevens, will join us live after headlines. WikiLeaks supporters continue to hold actions worldwide. As Julian Assange appeared in court, hundreds of people rallied outside the U.S. Embassy in his native Australia.
We have to take a stand here. This is his birthplace in Australia. If there isn't a movement here, there won't be one anywhere.
The release of the diplomatic cables continues to fuel government censorship here in the United States. The Air Force has announced it's now blocking personnel from accessing the websites of over 25 news outlets and blogs that have posted the cables so far. The censored outlets include the New York Times, The Guardian, Germany's Der Spiegel, Spain's El País, and France's Le Monde. Air Force personnel trying to read those websites are met with a message saying, quote, access denied, internet usage is logged and monitored. The Air Force censorship comes as an incoming Republican Congressmember has called for targeting news outlets that publish the cables. In a radio interview, Congressmember-elect Allen West of Florida called for censoring any news outlets that ran stories based on the cable's release.
Here's an individual that is not an American citizen, first and foremost.
Right.
For whatever reason, gotten his hands on classified American material and has put it out there in the public domain. And I think that we also should be censoring the American news agencies which enabled him to be able to do this, and then also supporting him and applauding him for the efforts. So that's kind of aiding and abetting of a serious crime.
That's a Florida Republican Congressman-elect Allen West. We'll have more on WikiLeaks after headlines. In Iran, at least 38 people have been killed in a suicide bombing near a mosque in the southeastern city of Chabahar. More than 60 people were wounded in the attack. Witnesses on the ground say the death toll could rise. At least 27 people have died after a boat believed to be carrying asylum seekers crashed in Australian waters. Over 40 people were rescued. The passengers were believed to be Iranians and Iraqis seeking asylum in Australia. Their boat was apparently trying to reach Christmas Island, where Australia has an immigration detention center. A witness said the crash was terrifying.
It was terrifying to watch, and there was nothing we can do. You don't know. They were lying down. They were obviously very, very sick. Some of them weren't even moving. They would have been so sick. But I saw children on that boat. I saw children, and I can hear children screaming.
Tensions are rising in the Ivory Coast over a disputed election between incumbent President Laurent Gbagbo and opposition leader Alassane Ouattara. Gbagbo is refusing to recognize election results from last month showing Ouattara won the race. Ouattara's party has called on supporters to stage mass protests against Gbagbo this week. An Ivory Coast citizen said his country is in crisis.
Cette situation est vraiment malheureuse, surtout pour notre pays, qui depuis 10 ans est plongé dans une situation de crise.
This situation is very sad, especially for our country, which for 10 years has been plunged into a crisis situation. We thought with these elections we would leave the crisis behind, but unfortunately it seems to me that we have gone deeper into it. With this two-headed government, the two candidates from the last round have proclaimed themselves president, and this is really difficult for the rest of us.
The Ivory Coast military has backed President Gbagbo's attempt to remain in office. The African Union has suspended Ivory Coast membership in protest of Gbagbo, and the U.S. has threatened to impose sanctions. The oil services giant Halliburton has reportedly reached a settlement deal with Nigerian prosecutors in a corruption case against former Vice President Dick Cheney. Last week, Nigerian prosecutors filed charges against Cheney in a $180 million bribery investigation stemming from his time heading the company before taking office. Cheney, Halliburton chief executive David Lasar, and 6 others were indicted on 16 counts for the bribing of Nigerian officials to win a lucrative gas project. Former Halliburton subsidiary KBR pled guilty in the U.S. last year to bribery charges in the case. According to Agence France-Presse, Halliburton has agreed to pay Nigeria a $250 million settlement. The deal would first need approval from the Nigerian government. President Obama is hosting a group of 20 top corporate executives for a meeting at the White House today. The list of guests includes the heads of General Electric, Google, Comcast, Dow Chemical, and UBS. The top Marine Corps top general is facing calls to resign after claiming that allowing openly gay and lesbian service members in the military could threaten the lives of U.S. troops. On Tuesday, Marine Commandant General James Amos said that repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell could lead to distractions for troops in combat situations.
When your life hangs on the line on the intuitive behavior of the young man, and this is predominantly what we're talking about right here, a young man that sits to your right and your left. You don't want anything distracting that. I take that very, very seriously. I don't want to lose any Marines to a distraction. I don't want to have any Marines that I'm visiting at Bethesda with no legs be a result of any type of distraction.
Amos's comments mark the first time a senior Pentagon official has suggested that repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell could cost lives. In a statement, the Service Members Legal Defense Network said Amos should drop his opposition or step down from his post. A recent Pentagon review found a clear majority of service members have no opposition to lifting the ban, with more than 70% saying a repeal would have positive, mixed, or no results. A federal appeals court has ruled that government agents must obtain a warrant in order to seize and search emails in a criminal investigation. The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals found emails are protected under the Fourth Amendment. In a statement, the Electronic Frontier Foundation hailed the ruling as a, quote, landmark decision that squarely rules on this critically important privacy issue. In Puerto Rico, armed police have occupied the main campus of the University of Puerto Rico following the end of a 2-day student strike. Puerto Rican officials say the officers will remain indefinitely to ensure non-striking students can attend classes. The strike was called in protest of a tuition hike that takes effect next month. Student activists have blasted the police operation as a militarization of campus and a crackdown on dissent. And Mark Zuckerberg has just been named Time Person of the Year. He is the founder of Facebook. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy